Well, markets are currently being driven by two major factors. One is, of course, the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and second is how inflation as well as interest rates are playing out. Well, at the moment, the focus is almost entirely on how Russia is dealing with Ukraine as well as the West, if I can call it. Well, the president of Russia, President Putin, announced that he's recognizing two self-proclaimed separatist republics in eastern Ukraine, which is a dramatic escalation versus what Russia has been stating publicly over the last week or so. And the US, which had clearly predicted an escalation, seems to be the one saying that I told you so. So, well, that has led to, of course, markets trending lower. So the US markets were closed, but mind you, as a backdrop, last week the Dow had fallen almost 2%, the S&P 500 had fallen over 1.5%, and the Nasdaq was down 1.8% through the week. And this despite the fact that almost 400 out of the S&P 500 companies which declared results, 3/4 of which have declared or beaten analyst expectations in terms of their results. So almost 300 plus companies have beaten analyst expectations, and despite that, markets seem to be embroiled and going lower quickly. Well, the US futures in early trade today are further lower. In fact, despite this fall, US futures are now down 1.5% down for the Dow, 1.7% down for the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq is down 2.25%. That's the US futures status in early trade today. Moving quickly on to how Europe looked yesterday. Well, Europe was also lower. That's how global cues have been of late. Well, investors yesterday were cautious. Of course, some of these announcements by the Russian president has come in early trade today rather. So it's coming slightly a few hours back, if I can call it. The FTSE was down around 0.4%. The DAX and the CAC were down over 2% in trade yesterday. Of course, Russia really beating down some of these indices. Germany and France really taking the beating for it. And the stock 600 was down 1.3% as well. Moving quickly on to how Asia closed. Well, Asia was down. The Nikkei was down around 3/4%. China was pretty much unaffected largely, while the Kospi was absolutely flat. So was the ASX 200. Well, the Hang Seng was down around just over 0.5% in trade yesterday. However, Asian markets today morning have opened sharply lower. So when I look at how Asia is looking early today, the Nikkei is down over 2%. The Shanghai is down over 1%. The Hang Seng is down over 2.5%. The ASX 200 down 1.3%, and the Kospi also down 1.8%. So markets are trending sharply lower. And when I look at the SGX Nifty, well, that's down over 1% as well. So sharp cues coming out. In fact, 200-point tank by the SGX Nifty in early trade today. It's down 222 points below that 17,000 mark as we speak. Well, the other impacted market, if I may call it, is oil and gold. Well, both advanced as Putin ordered forces to regions of Ukraine. So that meant that oil gained over 3% to $94 a barrel as we speak. Brent is now at $97 a barrel. Gold prices also went up. Gold is at around $1,910 an ounce as risks keep going up and everyone looks at the safe haven. The dollar index is above the 96 mark. The US 10-year treasury yields have fallen to 1.87% now, below that 1.9% mark. It's been a sharp fall for the US 10-year treasuries from that high of 2% plus to 1.87, and Bitcoin has fallen 4% just below that $37,000 mark. Crypto too taking a beating. So overall, asset classes looking lower other than gold and oil, which have gone up. That's a roundup of how markets are looking this Tuesday morning.